And away we go. Hello, crafters. Big D here. And welcome to the last Tuesday of March 2021. Curse City is on the way in. We got a bit to talk about. And I got a bunch of thoughts on that. So, let's start off like our normal, what's on the bench. So, this past weekend, and then we'll go into those rules too. This past weekend, the Drukhari rules, the Drukhari book, the Drukhari figures, all the new Drukhari stuff went live for Warhammer 40K. And Lady D, being the resident Drukhari player, got all the things. We got her combat cards. We got her the codex. We got her the combat patrol box because she wants to expand her Cobbleites. She's been, as everybody knows, her back's really been jacked up lately. So while she's been down, I'm helping out my wife so that she can play more. And so I built the entirety of the combat patrol box over the last 2 days. So that's 10 Cobbleites, an Archon, 5 Incubi, a Raider, and a Ravager, along with 2 other Raiders that she already had. So she's got a nice, with what she already had to paint, and now that stuff built and primed. She's kind of set for the stuff she's going to be working on for a while, which is good. It's good. I also finished up a quick commission for a build for my buddy Quinn at Falklandia. Quinn runs Falklandia Games, which is part of Falklandia Brewery. Falklandia Brewery is this lovely place here in Milwaukee. It's actually in St. Francis, I believe, which is a suburb of Milwaukee. But it's a pub. It's a really great pub. Good food, good drinks. And they have basically a gaming club / store now in the back. Shalom, Tazo. How are you, darling? So we've been running an escalation league there for the last couple months. We've been having pickup games there. It's become a regular hangout. And Quinn got into the game. He was digging it, and now he's really gotten into it. So, he's been getting into it. He's playing. He's a great Necron player, and he's been expanding his own army. But because he's a man running his own business, he doesn't have a lot of time in his hands. So, I've been building his stuff for him, and he's been paying me in extra miniatures because he picked up lots of miniatures when he got into the game. So he's got a bunch of extra miniatures that he's been handing off to me in return for me building his Necron stuff. So that's been great. Everybody's happy with that. I'm also going to be building and painting, mostly painting, but doing a bunch of terrain for someone else, actually for Commodore. And in return, he has handed off his filthy Tau to me. So I will actually have a pretty sizable Tau force really soon. I did a bunch of bathing, so they've been stripped. I've got some building to do, but I'm going to start with what's built. There was some in the stuff I got from Quinn, so they got bathed, but a lot of them came apart. I don't know what kind of glue this guy used, who built them, that he got them from, but I mean, I've got piles of pieces. So I got to assemble them, kind of get them put together, put them on bases, clean them up still a little bit, and then get them primed and get working on them. So I've got a huge amount of Tau on the back burner for me, which is awesome. I mean, I know that puts my Necrons on hold. It's funny. I like the Necrons. I've always liked the Necrons, but I've been like, I wanted to get to them, and then the whole idea of Tau, I have just been obsessed like the last like 3 or 4 months with getting a bigger Tau force. I built that one box for Kill Team, and I'm just like, gosh, I love this paint scheme. I love how simple but really slick this paint scheme looks. So I want more. And it's just awesome. Cinna Dave, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. So yeah, I mean, I've got this massive Tau force now, and I've got a bunch more to build. So I'm super pleased. So next army, Tau, they're coming. So that's great. And I already have a paint scheme, everything's in hand for them. I just gotta put them together, prime them, paint them, and then they'll be ready to go. Hey there yourself, Mythos. Good to see you. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on in the Dragons household. Yeah, lots of building going on. Lots and lots of building, lots and lots of cleaning up. I've also picked up a couple of pieces because I'm still piecemealing, but I'm doing a slow build for it. I'm doing that my squat army. Well, I picked up this Gromandal in Space Marine armor. And I'm just like, I love this figure. So he's going to go in my squats as something important. I just picked up another figure, the Cogsmith from Age of Sigmar that I'm going to actually use as my company commander. And I found my Gromandal from Christmas last year. That's going to be the tech priest that repairs the stuff. The tech priest Gromandal that's going to be my squat tech priest. So it's the army's coming together pieces by pieces. I'm slow building it because I want to make sure I get everything exactly right when I get that thing put together. Because I have a very specific aesthetic I want with them. So just lots going on there. So yeah, lots of painting going on. And as you may have seen in the thumbnail, instead of the crappy, cheap magnifying glasses I've been wearing, I actually invested a little bit, and I bought a pair of these. And it's got a flip down, an adjustable flip down that I can put one of 5 different lenses for size in it. This actually turns on. I don't have batteries in it yet, but it turns on to give me an LED headlight. It's nice and soft and cushioned, and it will make, instead of my glasses constantly falling off my face or getting lost, actually investing a little bit in an eyeglass set that I can put on while I'm painting. I'm really excited about trying to use those. I bought a cheaper version. They were on sale for only like $20 on Amazon. So just in case anybody cares, it's DICFEOS. And it's got also a cleaning lens in the pack. And if you're worried about it, it's got an elastic strap you can snap into the headband as well. So I'm looking forward to trying using it and see if I can actually paint wearing it instead of the crappy, cheap reading glasses I use. I don't need regular glasses, but I do need magnifiers because my small detail is falling away for me as I get older. And I use my reading glasses for reading, of all things. Oh, what a thought. So that's on the bench. That's a lot going on, but the bench is busy. The bench is very busy, which is good. So what's next? What are we talking about this week? Well, there's a lot of stuff going on. We've got all the Drukhari stuff that just came out. And we've got a bunch of the new Techless stuff coming out. The new, a lot of Age of Sigmar for basically the old High Elves. Their stuff's coming out. I haven't looked at them much. Honestly, I don't. I used to play high elves. I haven't gotten into these guys' aesthetic. I mean, they look cool to me, but they're just not my bag. So I haven't gone into them too much. I have a friend that plays them. I actually want to kind of sit down and talk with them so I can get some honest to goodness thoughts from a player that plays them, because I know he's dumping a bucket on their new figures. Frost and the Fists are going to have a couple shots from Ben's painted up figures this coming week, including one of his shots of his high elves, or the Lumineth Realm Lords. I think that's what they're called now. He's got a very unique paint scheme. It's really, really beautiful. Orange and blue. It really, really works well. So I'm going to talk to Ben when I get an opportunity and actually get some more input on how he thinks the army plays. I played against it once. It absolutely destroyed my Stormcast. They seem to have a lot of like lances and spears and throw out extra mortal wounds with those spears. So very, very devastating army from what I saw. Plus they've got the best mage in the game in Teclis, riding on that Sphinx or standing on the wing of that Sphinx thing. I think it's a beautiful figure. I've heard a couple of people complain about it and talk about how ugly it is. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. That figure is gorgeous. You know, everybody's got their own personal aesthetic at what they like and what they don't like. I find it interesting lately that I've seen a lot of arguments lately. A lot of like really almost vitriolic arguments on whether or not a miniature looks good or looks bad out of the box. There's a new Sisters of Battle figure where she's got like this big old power mace and she's holding it like this. And a lot of people are making jokes about it because, well, the head doesn't look good. And, you know, it looks like she's powerlifting or deadlifting something. And I'm like, oh, cool. That's great, Mythos. I may have to chat with you some point, just see how you. I mean, I like the look of them. I love the look of the new elves. Like I said, the big thing is people don't like that. I've heard people like really complain about the Teclis figure, and like I said, I've been seeing a ton of complaints about this new Sisters of Battle with, I don't know if it's a power maul or whatnot, but she's just standing there like this, and I mean, to me, it is a great figure. It just exudes power and strength, and everybody's got all these little complaints about it, and I'm like, I don't know where this is coming from. I think it's a great looking figure. And like I said, there was a lot of complaints about Teclis. What was the other figure? There was another recent figure that I heard a lot of people going meh about. SMP looks like Zoolander. I mean, like the look on her face. I honestly said, Dave, and you're a Sisters of Battle player. I thought that figure looked fabulous. The other Sisters of Battle, the Walker things. I heard a lot of people complaining about how silly they looked, and I'm like, I don't know. Again, it's not my aesthetic. Just like I don't like the blue steel. I've heard a lot of people don't like the aesthetic, or they just don't like the figure. They're like, oh, it's dumb looking. I don't like the aesthetic, but it doesn't mean it's a bad figure. It doesn't mean it's a bad looking figure. It's just like, for the same reason I don't really like the the Grey Knights. They have a very similar figure where it's the Grey Knight Paladin in the power armor that looks like a power walker. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, and that's my feel on it. It's like, if I don't like it, that's fine. It's okay that I don't like it, and if you don't like it, it's okay that you'd like it. But to just, I mean, like I said, I have seen some vitriolic screaming about how horrible some of these figures are, and I'm like, where are you coming from? This is horrible. Yeah. And you'll do that swap of, and you know what? That's fair too. That's the beauty of figures, customizing them. If there's some pieces you don't like, and swapping them out. I mean, the amount of people I know that, for whatever reason, on the Judicator didn't like that skull head, and swapped out the headpiece. Like everybody I know swapped that head out. I freaking loved it, and I kept it just like it was because I thought he looked badass. So I don't know. I guess I look at it from the aspect of just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's terrible. And that goes back to the whole opinion thing. Everybody's got an opinion. Opinion doesn't make it true. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It just makes it something you like or you don't like. And there's a famous Latin saying, and I always screw it up, but it basically translates to you cannot debate taste. There's a very good friend of mine that uses it a lot because he and I have very different opinions on what we like and don't like when it comes to anime. And I've said before, I'm a big anime fan, but there's certain genres and certain styles that I'm not a fan of. And and it just so happens that the stuff I really like is the stuff he's kind of met on, and the stuff he really likes is the stuff I'm like, not for me. But we don't argue about it. We just talk about what we do like that are the same, because there are some aspects of anime we really love. Like we both are big fans of Bubblegum Crisis and Dominion Tank Police and a lot of the cyberpunk shoot 'em up stuff. Deadly Pair, kind of older stuff for me. And absolutely, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And I'm glad you agree with me, Mythos. That new Judicator, he's a badass figure. I love that figure. I painted up in Wolf's colors and put a little bit of bits on him, but I kept him mostly stock. I thought he just looked just devastating. I know a lot of people swapped out the sword for like an axe if they did it as a wolf, or they pulled off the head and they gave him the Primaris wolf head helmet. I know some people use the Primaris Dark Angel's helmet that has the hood on it. And, like I said, I'm not going to take anything away from anybody wanting to do their own thing with their own models. That's their thing. And that's the funny thing, so Dave. I absolutely can't stand abstract art, but I love paintball art. For whatever reason, I love the organic look of it. And I can't stand abstract art except for specifically Jackson Pollock. Jackson Pollock's paintings, for whatever reason, they just hit me, and I love them. And we've got one here in the Art Museum in Milwaukee. They've got one of his really, really huge canvases. It's, I want to say it's like 15 feet tall and like 30 feet wide. It's just this massive canvas. And I can stand and look at that thing for hours. It's just gorgeous. But that's the thing. That's my appreciation for it. I don't expect anyone else to take the same thing. Like, art is so, so subjective. So good call there. Good call there, Mythos. And that's the thing. Everybody has what they like, and everybody has what they don't like. And just because somebody doesn't like what you do like doesn't make them wrong. That's a really big deal to me. And I just find lately, I don't know, I find, and it comes and goes, because I know I talked about this before, and I don't calm down for all, but we're back up to the whole, this vitriolic, burn the witch with figures people hate. Or I've heard complaints about paint jobs too, and that just really aggravates me. Really well done paint jobs, but people don't like them because of the color palette, and they're like, "Oh, that's crap, that's garbage," or "You're breaking lore, and that's totally blah blah blah." And I'm just like, "Oh, just stop. Appreciate it for what it is. It's somebody else's army. Enjoy what they have." I think a perfect example is the guy who's doing all these Necrons, Quinn. He is doing a very unique paint scheme. And he's just started painting, and he's tackling Necrons, and he's trying something very different. He's doing it in non-metallic grays, like black, almost charcoal black gray to a mid-tone darker gray. as the main colors, non-metallics. But he's going to do all the glowy bits in like neon pink. And it's just, I was just blown away when I saw it. Because he started with the 2 stelae that come with the Silent King, and I'm just like, pink lightning. That's crazy looking. It's just a crazy looking take on the model. And I love it. It's not mine. I'd never paint that, but I can't fault him. It's a brand new painter, brand new to the hobby. He just went, this is what I want to do. And I'm like, dude, you go and do that. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's a fabulous looking color scheme. It's really, really good. It actually was. It's like I said, it's not my thing. I would never do that. I'm not a fan of pink. I also have a hard time painting pink, and I'll fully admit that. But I looked at what he's doing, and I'm looking at how he's trying to learn how to do that, and I'm just like, he's just like tackling. He's just going right in. I'm just like, that's awesome, dude. And he's like, I'm not the greatest painter yet, but I will be by the time I'm done with this army, and I'm okay with that. And if I have to go back and repaint stuff, I'll do it. I don't care. That's what I want to do. I'm like, dude, you go. I mean, exactly. You do you, boo. I hear people complain because I've heard people complain about female space marines, and Shan Lady D is like, well, I'm doing all female marines. I don't care. It's my marines. And I'm like, exactly. They're your marines. They're your figures. They're your army. Do whatever the hell you want. I've had people complain about the lore for my death speakers because I'm like, man, you're just. I'm like, whatever, dude. You're just mad. You're just mad at the world and need something to be angry about. You're one of those people that doesn't like when people put mods on video games, aren't you? So yeah. I don't know. I mean, I looked at that release party this weekend and looking at everything they're showing off. I thought everything looked great. Whether or not I'm going to buy them, I don't care, but they look good. I don't think they put out bad figures anymore. I think there are some older sculpts and some older paint jobs that are pretty damn bad. Actually, City Dave, no. I actually found a bunch of really good heads, and I sized them up to Primera scale, and I printed a bucket of them for her. I found about the set I found has like 12 different female heads. And so I printed her 6 of each, and we just dumped them all in a big bucket so she can just pick one out and put it. And if there's a specific head she wants, I'm actually, yeah. And the thing is that so she can just pick them out and put them on there so they're nice and random. One of the other things is that if there's some specific heads she wants, actually, one of the really cool things that I know some people like, because they're a little expensive, but Forge World actually has a set of Stormcast female heads, and the Stormcast are Primera sized, but they're all female Stormcast heads. So you can swap them out for different heads. They're actually really, really nice casts. They're really good looking heads. So I might pick her up a pack of those specifically for her officers. She's also used other bits from Stormcast too. Like there's a Stormcast monopost figure that she built with the helmet, or I built with the helmet for a group I was making, and their head was left over. So she used that head on her conversion of Adrex Agatone. She put that head on there and then used some braids from my Wood Elf Blood Bowl team to give her a long set of what looked like dreadlocks. Because if you remember that character, the sides of the head are shaved, so she's got hair back to here. It looks like a ponytail. Where she clipped the ponytail and she put on those braids, so it looks like she's got like a set of dreadlocks weaving off the back of her head. It looks it's a great looking figure. She's grumping about it, but it looks fabulous. And you know, she second guesses herself a lot, but as you guys well know, she does amazing work. There's no airbrushing here. This is all hand brushed. This is all hand done. So it's just great. Such a great figure. Oh God! Oh, you mean the Predator, the Sisters Predator? Yeah, that is a great looking tank. And the first thing I heard somebody say is like, I don't play Sisters, but you know what? That's going in my Word Bearers army. I'm like, I can totally see that. And as somebody that's playing or putting together a Word Bearers army for 30K, I really want to get one of those tanks specifically to go with my 30K, go as a Predator for my 30K Word Bearers, because I think that's a pretty great, a pretty great conversion piece there. I think that's going to be pretty tight. So. That tank is great looking. God, I mean, it's a Predator. Let's be honest. It's a Predator with sister stuff on it. I think it looks awesome. I was always wondering, they have rhinos. Why the hell don't they have Predators and Razorbacks? I mean, they have their Calliope tank and they have their Flamer tank, but I mean, they need to have just guns. God. Either that or can you imagine a Sisters of Battle converting a Layman Russ? A Sisters of Battle converted Layman Russ. I mean, that's just, geez. So I'm glad that they got one. I think it's really cool. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for anybody getting new models, especially older lines. I mean, the Sisters of Battle, yeah, they've got basically a brand new line refresh, and they're still getting new models. That's great. And hey, the Mechanicus are getting their refresh next. That's kind of cool to hear, considering half of their army is not in their old codex, because there's so many new models that are in the Psychic Awakening book. So, I mean, I want these codexes to come out faster. I want everyone to get their codex super fast. And hey, how about them orcs? Man, those squig riding orcs, they look awesome. Oh my God. Oh yeah, I've seen some pretty cool tank STLs. I'm looking at some of them specifically for my. I didn't see them. I wasn't looking at Grim Prince, but I gotta go check them out, because I've been looking at some additional tanks specifically for my my squats. I actually check this out. I picked this up this weekend. I do not know. It needs a lot of love to fix it up. This is all resin, but this is a Forge World. I think this is a 30K version of a Layman Russ. I don't know what it is. I know it's GW, but I don't know what this is. But I am going to fix this bad. And I know it's a GW because it's got a plasma, a Volkite caliber in the front turret. So I am going to be fixing this bad boy up and making it my tank commander for one of my tank commander for my squad army. So loving this thing. This thing, I mean, it's beefy. I love it. And then, because nothing says squats like raining death from above. So this is going to be their main piece of artillery, the quad mortar bomber, whatever that thing is. Again, just stuff I picked up. But and that's the whole thing. That's why I like these guys, because my my squats are going to be in blacks and grays, with a touch of blue. I was going to do red, and I'm like, nah, I think we're going to do a touch of like bright, brilliant, like an azure, like a sapphire blue as their accent color. But they're going to be very much, gray uniforms, black boots, black gloves, black collars, bright blue epaulets with little bits of gold. And that's how my squats are going to go. So all these vehicles are going to be black, grayed up so they show some weathering, and then dark metal, and then I'm going to be putting some Dwarven Futhark runes on them for their stuff. I'm looking forward to doing this army, but I kind of want to take my time with the actual paint job, because I want to kind of go crazy on them, because they're going to be more of a showpiece army. Because I don't think I can, well, unless I print like a shitload of stuff, I don't think they're going to be a fully 2,000 point army. I think I'm going to go with what I find and what fits their aesthetic and build them. And if I get lucky and get my hands on a second box of Space Dwarves, or I'm able to print enough stuff to go with them. There you go. There you go. There you go. And that's the thing. I've never dug the Death Korps of Kree, but I know a lot of people that do. So, there was a really cool Kickstarter a while back, that it was somebody was basically doing them and the Talarn, and I almost jumped in on it, and at the last minute I kind of decided I'm not going to do this Talarn. I'm really, really going to jump on this squat army. So I went and found a bunch of really cool sci-fi squat looking dwarf figures that I did some stuff, and I bought a couple sets. Yeah, they do. They do. Some of them I didn't like. Honestly, some of them had just too much stuff on them. And if you look at the old squats, they're not very busy. Their uniforms, you saw that Kickstarter. Yeah. It was pretty cool. I mean, if you're really into it, it was pretty cool. I even talked about it a couple times here, because I kind of wanted to do a Talarn army until I was really inspired by this squat army I want to do. So who knows? We'll see in the future. Everybody knows my love of the Imperial Guards, so who knows? We'll eventually maybe get some Talarn in here, because after the Cadians, I love the Talarn. I love the idea of just going pell-mell into combat at Mach 3 and just run away. There they go. All right. So yeah, I mean, there's the Drukhari rules. The Drukhari rules are pretty interesting. I mean, everybody got a little bit fightier. Everybody got a little faster. Everybody got a little more hittier. They're still fragile as hell. I mean, they're basically a glass cannon. They're a high-speed glass cannon army. They come flying in, do their damage, and run away. If you catch them, they're probably dead. And that's okay. The nice thing about it is that they have 3 different ways of doing it. They have a fly-in, unload, drop some sadistic, crazy fighter chicks in your face, or they have a zip in, gun, runaway gunship boat version with the cults. And then they've got some guys that aren't as deadly, but can actually take a punch, and the homunculus guilds. If you look at GW's site right now, you can't get anything Drukhari right now. Everybody went nuts getting their stuff. So I've got a couple stores that I get to ravage and see if I can get Shan some racks down the thing, but she's not going to be getting. She wants to get racks. She wants to get some homunculus guild stuff down the line. She's got a Talos. She's got a Kronos or whatever the heck they're called. You got the giant things, and she wants to get some more of those guys, and she wants to get the troops to go with them. But right now, she wants to focus on witches and Kabbalites, and that's pretty cool. I gotta say, I dig that. The fact that you can take however many scout patrol or what do you call it? Patrol, what do you call it? Detachments that you can take in the game. You can take it all. If you take all patrols, you don't pay for your detachments. Really. So if you can take in this game, if you can take 4 patrols, I take 4 patrols. I don't pay for any of my detachments. Can I fit all my stuff in there? It just means you're playing a very focused army. And it's a lot of, it lets you play a lot of characters. This is about, let's have a dropout that looks like a chapel. Well, they have a chapel that looks like a chapel. My God, they have that freaking, first off, they have that thing of St. Catherine, which is basically a walking chapel. And then they have the flying chapel that the one person's on. Well, not chapel, it's a pulpit. They have that flying pulpit thing. So, I mean, giving them a transport that's a drop out after that, come on. They also get a church for their terrain piece, for crap's sake. We are the nuns with guns. All church is ours. I love this. This is a battle. I wish I was actually motivated to play them because they're just a really cool looking model. But I've seen their rules and I'm just like, no, that's gonna mess with me. I'm not gonna. No. What does that St. Catherine thing do even? I mean, I'm like, I'm not even sure what the heck it is. It just looks like it's a procession of crap. I'm just like, we're walking a corpse down the street. What the hell does this do? I imagine it probably does stuff with their miracle dice and morale and whatnot. And there's probably it's specific to the Dark Elves. If they take 4 patrols, they don't pay for any of them. If they take all patrols, just patrol detachments, if they take an entire army where all their detachments are patrols, they don't pay for any of their detachments. Yeah, if you take your detachments and it's either a patrol, a battalion, or brigade, and your warlord is in it, then you don't pay for that detachment with every other army. The Dark Elves are, we don't pay for patrols as long as all we use is patrols. The whole idea is that you're building this fast, tight, efficient force. So they don't pay for any of their detachments as long as they're all patrols. So it's crazy. It's super crazy. It's like super point efficient. And they've got some other things. They actually, one of the biggest things that kept people from playing certain types of Drukhari before was because they've got 3 separate cults. Or I should say, they've got 3 separate arms. And because of it, that certain groups don't have certain pieces. Like, specifically, you can't, before 9th, you could not take a brigade in 8th of Dark Eldar. You couldn't take a brigade because you don't have enough to fill all the slots. And if you mix the Kabbalites with the witches, with the guilds, if they're in the same detachment, they lose their ability. And each one of them has something really cool, so you don't want to do that. So you couldn't do a brigade because the Kabbalites don't have fast attack. They don't have any fast attacks. The witches don't have any heavy supports. And I don't think either of them have elites either. I think the only one that has elites is the Homunculus Guild. Well, they added a new rule specifically for the Dark Eldar, that if you have in your detachment, and the way it words out, basically it means if you've got you could do it in a battalion, but there would be no reason to do it in a battalion. Honestly, there'd be no reason to do a battalion unless you're trying to squeeze it into a really small game. But it really makes more sense for a brigade. If your HQs consist of specifically a Archon, a Succubus, and a Homunculus, or I forget what the leader of the Homunculus Guild is called, and the Archon is the Warlord. And then you have a squad of Kabbalites, a squad of Raks, and a squad of Witches in your troop slots. If you have those two things, specifically, well, three things, because you have to have the Archon as your Warlord. But if you have that, nobody loses their abilities, and everybody gets to. It's called a real space raiding force. And it allows you to put everybody in the same detachment, and nobody loses the Witches don't lose their cult stuff. The Kabbalites don't lose their Cabal bonus, and the Homunculus don't lose their guild bonus. So, to be honest, the easiest way to understand it from anybody who doesn't play Drukhari, it's like, as long as, hello, Gavin. The easiest way to understand it for people that don't play specifically Dark Elves, it's kind of like, as long as I have an Ultramarine, an Imperial Fist, and an Iron Hands captains in my HQ slots, and the Ultramarines captain is the leader, is my commander, and I have a squad of Ultramarines tacticals and Imperial Fists intercessors and Iron Hands heavy intercessors. Every troop gets to keep their abilities. So the ones that I mark out as Iron Fists get their Iron Fist ability. The ones that are Iron as Imperial Fists get their abilities, and the ones I mark out as Ultramarines get to keep their ability. It's a crazy ability. It lets them fill out a brigade. So you can actually put the three of them there, three troops, put three more sets of troops, put in the three Homunculus elites, put in the heavy support from the Kabbalites, and put in the fast attack from the Witches, and boom, you have, as long as the leader is Cato Sicarius. It's crazy. You stack that up, and suddenly you've got this combined force, and everybody keeps their abilities. And some of the abilities are crazy. There's a Kabbalite ability that adds to their movement. I want to say it's kind of a nasty amount of movement. I've seen a raider move 17 inches on the board. So I think it was they add to their base move and they add to their advance. And then they get to do that. They can spend that 1 CP and do fire and favor. They get to do an advance in reverse. So it's just craziness stuff. So yeah, I mean, they really fixed a lot of the problems as far as being able to use all of your stuff. And then they made things better. I mean, I was looking at, if you're in my Discord, I have a whole lot of stuff in Lady Dragon's engine, because I specifically put it there for her to see, but for anybody who knows that she plays them. Auspex Tactics did a layout of how the Drukhari are nasty right now. There is a Archon build that you could put together where this Archon could walk out and go, oh, look, it's a tank. Glack. It's a broken tank. It could basically one-shot. Basically, he does his fight phase, and it takes a Layman Russ or a Predator right off the board. Just, you're dead. Yeah, I'm kind of waiting for the Imperial Guard to get their book too. I mean, I've got a massive expenditure on Imperial Guard. I mean, yeah, Auspex Tactics. Auspex Tactics has become one of my go-to channels. If I want to understand something a little better or kind of get some insight, I mean, Broadsword's pretty good, but Auspex Tactics, he breaks stuff down into terms that my brain can comprehend. And there's a few other tactical channels out there that really break certain things down for me, and certain battle report channels have broken down certain tactics I understand a little better. So that I've been watching a lot of. I haven't lately. I've been playing 40K every week for pretty much almost every week for like the last 4 months now. I'm playing at least one game a week. So I got two 2,000 point game. Well, potentially two 2,000 point games this weekend. One in the morning and one in the evening. And Morgan Glory. I'll have to look at that one. Because yeah, there's a couple Astral Militarum guys in my gaming group, and they play armies that that's what I figure. Morty and Glory. They play army lists that I don't like. They're not my style of playing. Yeah, and that's the thing. Right now, tanks suck for the Imperial Guard. I mean, you want to have some, unless you just go Psycho Tank. But then, depending what you're going against, they're really easy to score against. You break a couple tank. I mean, one of my guys, his first game was his Imperial Guards versus my Death Guard, and I maxed out on 15 points breaking his stuff. Just breaking his tanks. Because depending what you're playing, tanks don't survive really well. And since they're losing their range abilities and you have things that can get up in their face, a group of 5 Terminators with melee weapons will make short work of a tank in no time flat. And especially if they've got combi meltas. They shoot one tank and then charge a second tank and it's all over. Yeah, and that's the thing. You want to do that. I mean, basilisks are still my favorite thing in the game. If I could have 3 basilisks, if I could afford 3 basilisks, or like I just said earlier, one of these guys. I used to really not like this guy. I really didn't like this guy. And the more I look at his numbers and the more I play with the math hammer on him, the more I've become a fan of this thing. I can see some definite power uses for this thing. But yeah, you need artillery. You got to have that's the one thing that everybody kind of forgets, that the Imperial Guard has over every other army. They just have a crap ton of artillery. I don't need to see you to shoot you. I'm just going to bomb the crap out of you. So it is what it is. So as we come into the 8:30 portion of the show, we are going to talk about, I'm going to change channels here. Yeah, Will Screen Basilisk is just a pain in the ass. You can do some stuff with a Basilisk that's just, but screening for the Imperial Guard, you've got to be if you want to play them well, you've gotta learn the screen. The mortals are useful too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, actually, all the heavy weapons teams, I like them all. The mortars, the lazes, the autocannon. I'm a big fan of the autocannons, actually. But yeah, the mortars are great. Again, artillery just on a whole, using mortars and then the quad mortars and basilisk. I mean, if you can put 3 of each of those down and just go nuts, they're never going to get to you because they're going to be shot off the board no matter how much cover they have. It's the one thing people don't like about my Death Guard, because when I pull out my Plague Burst crawlers, they've got indirect fire. And it's a heavy mortar. It's a deadly, deadly mortar. Pound stuff hard. Oh, that cannon, that indirect fire cannon, it brings a lot of fear. And the fact that it comes up with a pair of Lazes or a pair of Death Squirters, yeah, lots of fun there to be had. But yeah, as we come up on the 8:30 hour, I wanna switch gears a little bit. I wanna for a moment. Let's talk about Cursed City. That's the new pre-order going on this weekend, the big pre-order going on this weekend. A lot of people are talking about this. It's the new Warhammer Quest. It's the next step in Warhammer Quest. It's the replacement for Blackstone Fortress. I'm going to qualify it with this. I wanted to get Blackstone Fortress really badly. Really, really badly. I don't even need to qualify. Let's just dive into it. I wanted Blackstone Fortress really super bad. Like, I wanted that game. And I could got the base game, but the problem was it came with expansions. And the expansions were a pain in the ass to get and sold out, and you couldn't get them again. And so, for those who are not familiar with Blackstone Fortress and Warhammer Quest on a whole, Warhammer Quest is board games set in the various Warhammer worlds using Games Workshop Citadel figures that you can also use in the tabletop game, but they're unique to the games, or mostly unique to the board games that they come with. And Blackstone Fortress was an amazing success for them. And I should point out right here, I'm going to qualify what I'm saying in that I'm a huge board game fan. I have been a lover of board games since I was a very young lad. My mom got me into board games when I was very young. And I mean everything from, we played Parcheesi, like the amount of times I played Parcheesi, the amount of games, the amount of hours I have sunk into Parcheesi in my life are ridiculous. So, I mean, I've played Parcheesi a ton, but I've also played, like, I mean, if it came out for Milton Bradley, we had it. Or Parcheesi and Stratego and Battleship and Risk. And then Monopoly. I mean, just if it was a board game, we had it. The Game of Life, all that. I mean, we love board games. And as I got older, more sophisticated board games. Like, once I learned of Axis and Allies, I'm like, oh, board games can get really, really cool. I mean, and yes, you're correct, Gavin. We're going to talk about that because that's part of what this is about. So, I mean, I got an Axis and Allies, and then Axis and Allied Pacific, and Axis and Allied D-Day, and Axis and Allied. There's like 3 or 4 versions of Axis and Allied, and then they had 3 or 4 versions of Risk, and I really got into those. And then I got introduced to even more advanced board games, and I'm just going to back up and look at them here: Fortress America, Acquire, Dead of Winter, fabulous game. Supremacy. I have the entirety of the Supremacy series. I mean, that's a massive game. Merchants of Venice or Merchants of Venus, specifically Cosmic Encounters, and my two newest acquisitions, Terraforming Mars and Wingspan. Terraforming Mars is an $85 game. Wingspan is a $75 game. And I didn't bat an eye. Didn't even blink. Oh, that's how much? Okay, there you go. I am ashamed that I do not own a copy of Zombicide, as much as I love that game. But it's because every other person I know owns Zombicide. So me buying another copy is just ridiculous because I wouldn't play it here at the house. I played it at my other friends' houses. And every single one of them, and I mean literally every single one of my friends that plays Zombicide owns a copy. So I just don't need a copy because I don't need a copy here because it's just going to take up space. Because if I'm going to go play it, I'm going to go specifically to the people's houses that I know play the game. But Zombicide's a great game. That's $100 a box. And it comes with 50 to 60 or more figures. And then they have $25 expansions that add 25 figures. And they have $15 expansions that goes 10 figures in it. Hero figures. So I understand how board game pricing works. And I know I've talked about it before, but I worked for Hasbro. I worked for a while. I worked for Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. And so I was given boxes and boxes and boxes of board games, many of which I have given away because I had duplicates, some of which were destroyed in a flood that happened in my house in 2010. But yeah, I mean, I understand the board game industry. And that is the first step I had to stop myself because you can go right now and go to the store and you can buy Zombicide. And if you want a specific, except for ones that were specifically billed as limited edition, if you want one of the expansions, if they don't have it in store, they'll order it for you and you can get that expansion. GW produces a board game. They produce X number of copies and they're done. They might do a second run, but don't count on it. I think one of the biggest gripes and biggest reminders of this in anybody that's been around for GW for a long time will tell you about Space Hulk, a game I have been desperately trying to get my hands on for 20 years. Back in the 90s, it wasn't that hard to get a hold of one for about a 4 or 5 year period, and then they all disappeared. And they went out of print and you couldn't get them anymore. And then they did a reprint a while back with really great figures, but it was a single shot limited edition. They did X number of copies and that was it. And you can't find it and you can't get those figures. And that box, if you can find it on eBay, you might as well sell your kids or a car. And that's disappointing. And one of the things that's kind of annoying, and this is the thing that drives me nuts about GW. And I'll qualify that in a moment because very specifically, they create these board games that people want and people want to play and people want to buy, and they run out of them and you never see them again and they are gone. And they do this with multiple properties. If they produced today the Gothic Fleet, the Space Fleet game, Gothic Space Fleet Gothic. I forget what it. I know what I'm talking about. You guys know what I'm talking about. I've talked about it a lot. I'd probably be playing it if it was still produced, because I used to play that back in the 90s, and we loved that game. It was a fun game. It's a great, great game. but it went out of print. They have a computer version of it, and it's great. So I got it, and it's great. The original Blood Bowl was out of print for a long time. I luckily had a bunch of my old Battlefield Gothic. Thank you. And it's such a great game. The original Blood Bowl was a great game. I bought 2 copies of it on my own because I loved it so much. I bought 2 separate copies just to have extra boards and extra figures. And we played the crap out of that game. I still have a lot of it on my shelf. Yeah. And that's the thing. Blood Bowl went out of print for a long time. When they did the digital game Blood Bowl, which was by the old Blood Bowl rules, oh crap, you bet I bought that because I wanted to play that game again. And now they finally released a new Blood Bowl. And that's great. I'm actually really happy they did. It's not the same game, but it's still close enough that I don't mind it. I don't mind it. But this is what GW does. They create these board games, or they create these secondary games, even if they're not board games, and they abandon them. They do like 2-3 expansions, and then they abandon them, and we never see them again. A lot of people don't remember that back in the 90s, Gorka Morka was its own standalone game. It had a full campaign setting in it for battling orcs. You know? It was a game about battling orcs on a single planet, and there were all kinds of crazy things, and there was humans that could be in there that thought they were orcs, and it was a crazy game. It was a lot of fun, and a lot of people bought it just before they get the vehicle rules and to use them in a 40K, but they did more than that. There was more there. But the games were affordable back then, and I'm being honest here. The games were much more affordable back then. I know prices have grown and things, the overall price of 40K hasn't really, the per model for adjusted for inflation may have not changed, but the box games certainly have. And they've produced a lot of box games and secondary games that have felt abandoned. And this is something that GW is kind of known for. Their Sea Fleet game, Dread Fleet. Now, there's an interesting game because there's where GW apparently tried to seriously get into the board game market, and they decided to do it with Dread Fleet, trying to capitalize on the marketability and the marketability and the popularity of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. And so they decided to do a pirate-themed ship game. And they produced it in mass quantities. I know where I can get copies of that game now. It hasn't been produced in almost 10 years. I know where I can get a brand new box sitting on a shelf right now if I wanted to go get it. Oh, the one before Dread Fleet. I don't know about the one before Dread Fleet. I remember Dread Fleet, and that was produced about 10 years ago. That was produced, I want to say 2009, 2010. You can. I know of stores that still have a copy or two on the shelves somewhere. GW has perfected the hype machine. Hey, Squig Boss, how's it going? GW has perfected the hype machine. They create secondary properties based on their primary properties, and then they limited run them and sell them out. And if you don't get them when they're there and when they're available, you're SOL. Perfect example was Blackstone Fortress. Blackstone Fortress was, by all accounts, a pretty good game. But it had expansions. And I remember when the dreaded Amble expansion came out. And when that came out, I was thinking, maybe I'll get that and the Blackstone Fortress at the same time. I like board games. Blackstone Fortress is $160 as a board game. Okay, so let's back up a second here. Why is this board game so expensive? Well, it's got all this production value, blah, blah. Zombicide has 3 times the figures that are not as good. I'm not going to say they're as good as GW figures, but they were nice. Those are nice figures. For a board game, those are gorgeous figures. Hell, I painted them up and I bought an expansion pack just to paint up so I had zombies for a zombie apocalypse game I was running. Those are gorgeous looking models. But they had 3 times the model of the 3 times the models, at least, of the GW game. They had all the same cardboard and plastic other stuff in the game. And it was 2/3 the price, a little less than 2/3 the price. So I'm paying for GW. Okay. Yeah, GW is a premium product. Okay, that's fair, I guess. I still want it. And this expansion's $45, which for a big figure, okay, that's about right. So I'm paying for the extra rules and I've got this cool figure. Okay, fine. What do you mean it's out of stock? You just announced it. It's out of stock. Man o' War. Okay. I remember that. I never played it. So they released the Dreaded Amble, and it was out of stock the moment it came out the gates. I've never actually seen one in stock in a store in a city that has 5 gaming stores that carry Games Workshop, including a Games Workshop shop. I've never seen one in stock. I'm sure they were in stock, but they flew off the shelves. Okay. That's an expansion I'll never be able to get. And that made me rethink, well, I mean, do I need that one expansion? It's just a one figure expansion. It can't be that big a deal. Hey, they're announcing a new expansion. It's gone. Okay, so, and I kind of passed off on Blackstone Fortress. I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's not that big a deal. I just kind of, okay, whatever. And then when the lockdown for COVID came, and I've got through most of what I had in my backlog, I'm like, you know what? Maybe now would be a good time to get this game, get this board game, get the expansions, and actually paint it while I'm home. And then when COVID's done, we'll have this great board game. What do you mean it's got a print? It's a brand new board game. It's been out for a year, maybe a year and a half, 2 years at most. It's out of print. The board game's out of print. The expansions are out of print. They just announced the last expansion, and it's out of print already. What the hell is going on with this game? GW's business model is based on the whole concept of artificial scarcity. They produce boxes at a discount of their regular figs or special edition limited figures in board games or in secondary games that you can only get that way, and you're only going to get them for a limited time, and then they're gone. Kill Team. Kill Team is supposed to be the game you use regular 40K figures with. The original Kill Team box set I wanted. I was like, when that was what brought me back to 40K. I'm like, this looks great. It's a small squad. I'm at this point, I was completely out of GW. I've been out of GW for almost 20 years. And I'm like, this game looks great. I built up 10, 15 figures. I built up some terrain and we play. It's kind of like Necromunda, but it's with 40K guys. And if I want to, hate, I've heard of that one. Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole thing. It's like, I'm looking at Kill Team. I'm like, I'm going to get this. And if I want to get a new army, I buy one box of figures and I can play the game. And I went into my GW store maybe a month and a half, after the game had come out because I couldn't already. It was already out of print on Amazon. Nobody had it for its going price. They were all like, "Oh, it's $300. It's $350." I'm like, "This just came out. Why is this double in price?" So I went to the GW store, and they're like, "No, we don't have it anymore. It's out of print." It's the starter for the game. How the hell is it out of print? Well, it was a limited starter. It's a limited run, like Indominus was a limited run. It's a limited taste. So they build up the hype. They put out a box set that you got to get. They sell out of that box set. And if you didn't get it, you're like, "Oh my God, I didn't get it. Now I have to do stuff to get all the stuff. And I need the stuff." And you feeling this level of loss. Yeah. And it's like, since they went to plastic, 100%, their metal figures are basically gone. They've got some resin left, but not even a lot of that left. They've gone to less mass-producing figures, except for their baseline figures. And everything comes in boxes of 10 or boxes of 5. And their single figures are $35, $45 a piece. So then I go back to looking at Blackstone Fortress. I'm like, well, maybe I'll go get some of the pieces online. And that's when I saw the expansions were available, but they were ridiculously priced. And I am not going to pay for a $45 expansion what I'd pay for the base game, which is $160. And that's what a lot of them are going for, if not more. So, okay. I now understand they're not running a board game company. They're running a miniatures company that happens to produce a game to go with their miniatures. And if you don't get them when they're available, then that's your loss, because they're going to sell all the ones they make to know that they make their money back, and they'll use that extra money that they make that they didn't lose because they sold every last copy they had. They'll use it to produce their main lines. So they do these limited runs, and then they go back to produce their main stuff, and then do another limited run, and go back to producing their regular stuff. And that's how GW works. So it got me thinking, well, at $160, a good board game, a really good board game, okay, yeah, I'm in for this Cursed City. I'm in for the it's 100. It's 200. It's not 160, it's 200. Well, it does have a lot more figures, but it's 200. That's 2 board games. Now we're talking Kingdom Death prices. You buy a couple more expansions, and we're really knee deep into Kingdom Death territory. And my whole thing, I didn't want to get into Kingdom Death, no matter how fabulous those minis were. I'm not going to buy a game that I'm paying that much for the figures for a game that I don't know was any fun, because nobody I know plays Kingdom Death. I don't know a single person that plays that game. I know a lot of people that have painted figures from Kingdom Death, but I don't know a single person that's actually rolled the dice and played the game Kingdom Death. And I bring up Kingdom Death because it's the one game a lot of people know about in the miniatures world, because the miniatures are so absolutely gorgeous. Gavin, you're absolutely, and that's the other thing, Gavin. I look at it like I don't want to sound like I'm ignoring you, but I'm watching what you've been saying there, and you're absolutely right. Because I look at it like this. I remember what I was making in the 90s when I was in my 20s, and I was in the 90s, and I was in the GW the first time around. And I remember I dropped a half a paycheck. Now, I shouldn't have dropped as much as I did, but I dropped a half a paycheck. And I bought the 40K starter box. And I bought a box of Imperial Guard. And I bought an extra box of Marines. And I bought a Rhino. And I bought a handful of other blisters of specific Space Wolf guys. And I bought a box specifically of the plastic, the plastic Kislev Raiders, so I could cut them up. I bought a box of Kislev Raiders for the express purpose of cutting them up to put them on my Marines to make my Marines look like Space Wolves. Oh, and the Space Wolves Codex. I bought all that with a half a paycheck in the 90s. I was only making a little bit more than minimum wage back then. Yeah, I was getting 40 hours a week, but I was making only a little bit more than minimum wage. I might be able to afford to have a paycheck now, but I'm making a hell of a lot more money now. To buy that much stuff at one drop, I wouldn't dream about it. I mean, I was like, oh, when I bought a Combat Patrol box, a box of cards, and a book, I was like, that's $250. Crap. Yeah. So the prices have gone up. The economy's made that so, but it just seems like, prices have gone up a bit. I mean, obviously the flat numbers have gone up, but yes, they've grown with inflation, but I don't think wages have grown with inflation. I think that's an entire economic argument there. But you're absolutely right. It just seemed like games were more affordable in the 90s than they are now. But then I try to compare apples to apples. So I'm looking at this board game, Cursed City. It is a $200 board game. I dropped $150 and I got Terraforming Mars and Wingspan less than 3 months ago. I'm very pleased with that purchase. But that was $150. I got 2 board games that have near infinite replayability. And then it hit me when I was thinking about that number. So it's $250. I know the first expansion is going to come out quickly, so we figure another $50 for that expansion right off the bat. So $250 American dollars, USD, for this game right off the bat. Yeah, Wingspan the bird game. I'm grabbing a sec. It is a great game. Gosh, it's so much fun to play. Love that game. So $250 for this game with its first expansion. Okay, it's a GW game. They're beautiful figures. I'm not gonna lie. They are absolutely stunning figures. Are you gonna use them in your Age of Sigmar? I'm not gonna use them in Age of Sigmar. I played Stormcast. I don't play the Vampire Counts, and I don't play, I'm guessing, Cities of Sigmar? I don't know who those other guys are, but I play Stormcast, I play Ogres, and I play Slaanesh Demons. That's it. So none of these other guys, none of these interest me. They're great looking figures, but they're for the board game. And that's a big thing. I'm buying it looking at it as a board game. It's $200, $250 for the first expansion to get with the first expansion. Unless you buy the book, which is, I think, another $35 because it has a character for a board game and the rules to play it coming with a book. And that's the only way you can get it. So now we're in the $300 range for the game, its first expansion, and the one extra character. Oh, it's okay. It'll be a great game. And that's where the problem came about. Because I realized I've been so hyped about this game. I mean, I dug in. I'm like, this game looks great. This game looks fun. This game looks wonderful. Except I don't know how the game plays. And I'll be honest, I've found some really great looking games where the mechanics were pretty bad. And GW has had a couple of stinkers when it comes to mechanics in the past. So I suddenly go, okay, I'm really hyped for this board game because of how it looks. No, I'm really hyped for this game because it's a GW game. Oh my God, GW's marketing worked on me. I'm excited for a board game because GW said you should be excited. Sight unseen, I don't know jack shit about Cursed City. But I was completely hyped for it without knowing a damn thing about how the game played, without understanding the layout or the mechanics at all, without knowing it's a fun game with any replayability. I've got a couple board games that I liked, but they were fun to play once, maybe twice. I think a perfect example of that is Dead of Winter. Dead of Winter is kind of fun. But you have to play it with a couple different groups of people to really get a lot of enjoyment out of it, because certain people will play in the same kind of, they develop their own strategies for the game, and eventually it just comes from being the same game over and over and over and over and over and over. So I'm wondering how far off from that type of thing is Cursed City. I don't know. So I have to decide between now and Saturday if I want to begin that commitment, because I have a sneaking suspicion that with the amount of hype that they've thrown at this game, that once it sells out, you're not going to be able to get another copy. And I have the impression that because they want it to sell out, it's going to be a limited, it's going to be a super limited release. I'm really concerned about that. Because if it's great, and I have a friend who wants to get it, they can't. But if it's not great, I'm going to dump a ton of money on a board game that I don't want to play. So I agree with you, Mini Warm Up. I was talking about that earlier. Zombicide's an amazing game. I love Zombicide. I'm actually thinking about getting that Zombicide Old West game that they've got on Kickstarter right now. I'm thinking I might be the first to jump on that one, because like all my friends have all the other Zombicide stuff. So, and since they all own the game, there's no reason for me to own the game, because literally every person I play with owns it. I mean, I know of like 10 copies of Zombicide out in my immediate group of friends. So it's pointless for me to drop the money on buying it. But if I'm one of the first ones to grab the Old West game, maybe I can save. I'll have the figures myself, and maybe somebody else doesn't. So Cursed City. Is it worth the money? I don't know. And the problem is I don't know anybody that played Blackstone Fortress. That's the other biggest problem. Because Blackstone Fortress was such a limited game, nobody got the damn game. Or not a lot of people got the game in my immediate area. I don't know anybody that got it and played it. So I have no idea if that game was any fun. But gosh, I wanted it because I like board games. But if the Warhammer Quest engine isn't a good game, what am I getting myself into? It's a decision I got to make over the next 5 days. So, that being said, we are going to wrap up our Tuesday night talking by giving a big shout out to all my Patreons. So we're going to start off with my $1 patrons, my Battle Brothers. The amazing and absolutely insane Inquisitor Zane. And my buddy Brian, the man with his Desert Angels, Mini Warmod. I've got my Battle Leader tier. I got my Wolf Brothers, Wolf Brother Mythos, and Hell Works by Hellchild. I've got Joe Bookish, and I've got the Necron Bros. I've got my guy Spinilius and the Bacon Lord, Heinrich Botha. Greg Tesh, Spinilius, I miss you, dude. I want to see you soon. I miss you a lot, man. And lastly, I have at the top tier my Warlord tier. Well, Masters of Disaster. I have James Meeks, the Ultimate Smash Captain. I have the lovely and wonderful and ever so busy selling houses and taking names, Flight of the Phoenix. And lastly, missing from high orbit, not here to protect me, not guarding my back, not guarding my skies, the ever-present but currently not present Commodore. I want to thank all of you for coming tonight and stopping by, and give me those likes when you can. If you can hit me that up button, that just tells YouTube that I'm doing a good thing here. I'm entertaining you a little bit and bringing up some good discussion. If you got any questions, if you got any ideas, anything you want to talk about, throw it in the comments below. Again, you can find me on Facebook starting soon. We're going to be getting a Gamecraft Dragon page going pretty quickly. But we've also got us on Instagram. We've got us on Twitter, and Lady D on there as well on the Instagram. We've got a Discord channel. Feel free to hit me up anytime. I'll get you a link and get you in there, and you can talk with us all about the crazy stuff, get some feedback on your terrain, get your feedback on your minis, and just have some crazy-ass conversations with a bunch of lunatics that just hang out talking about all things gaming. I'm Big D, the Gamecraft Dragon, and remember, epic your board, epic your game, and epic your life. Take care and treat everyone around you better than you'd want to be treated yourself. Wash your hands. Wear your masks. Get your shots. And we'll see you soon.